I feel like I was working very hard since I was 15 years old. I used to deliver flyers, and then I used to get these temp jobs at agencies, and I would work at warehouses and factories. And I remember working in a number of woodworking factories. I actually am a fan of woodworking. I don't know if you know that, but all throughout my life since I was a child, I thought that in order to make money, you need to work very hard. That's because I looked around to see what other people were doing, and it looked like they were working very hard to make money. And then when I would ask them, they would say, you got to work really hard. What I've come to realize is that is a half-truth. By that it is meant, right now I don't work very hard. I actually do what I love to do. I have built 3 successful businesses, one in IT, one in consulting, one with my other YouTube channel. And also prior to that, after reading Think and Grow Rich, when he said, if you believe that money is a result of hard work alone, perish the thought, and I listened to him, even though it seemed unbelievable, I listened to him. I did find that my corporate career became more flow-based, became more effortless. And not only that, I found that money started to show up in unexpected ways. And not only that, I also started to notice that information would show up. They would be particular kinds of information like books, videos, people that I would meet. They would just show up spontaneously. And they would repeatedly, all throughout the years, repeatedly demonstrate and share with me easier, faster ways to allow money to flow to me. So fast forward, now I make videos, I talk about the effortless flow of money, how money flows effortlessly to you. And that could sound unbelievable. Back in the days, a video like this would have sound very unbelievable to me. And that's a part of the reason why I make these videos, is I trust that there's a previous version of me watching this video. Somewhere in the infinite scope of possibilities that exist in imagination, there's an infinite versions of me, and one version of me is out there watching this video right now. And I just want to communicate to that version of me, and you as well, that when I came across this, what we're talking about here, it would have sounded unbelievable back in the days. Unbelievable. And part of it is I wanted a logical explanation. And in the book Think and Grow Rich, he did offer a number of logical explanations that made sense to me, which eased the confusion in mind, which allowed money to manifest. And one of them was based on some information that I came across later on. As mentioned, when I read Think and Grow Rich, it wasn't just getting out of $50,000 debt, which the book helped with. It helped with actually facilitating the life I live right now. Back then, it facilitated the life that I live right now, which is based on financial freedom. I made a video discussing this. I'll link in the description to it last Tuesday. So I want to share with you one key insight that showed up that allowed money to flow more effortlessly, more so in entrepreneurship, but you can apply this to whatever area of your life as well. You'll see parallels if you can put 2 and 2 together. Now, what I also want to do today is answer a number of questions that have been submitted. If you would like for me to answer a question, you can, if you would like, type a question in the comments below, and then we can explore in an upcoming video. We do these videos very effortlessly as well, flowing. I don't plan what I'm going to say. I may have a mind map with some points to explore with you, but it's also free-flowing, my own reference experience, which I could relate to whatever kind of questions that you ask and then explore so that you can benefit greatly. We can all benefit greatly from this information, including the previous version of me who's watching this video. So we can see then, it's not based on conjecture. This is actually how it is. Money tends to flow a lot more easily and effortlessly when we stop trying to control it, or control in general. Everything just happens. So some of the questions that were asked. One is, let's talk about starting a client list and how to go from nothing. So essentially, you have already everything that you could possibly ever require to make $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever you'd like. I wrote a book about it, as you know, or you may know. It's called The Direct Path to $1 million. Turn what you already have into a fortune. So contained within this book, if you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to it. And actually everything that we discussed on this channel here and also on my other channel, I can honestly speak from experience that all I did was take my knowledge, my wisdom, my life experiences, and in the earlier stages, I didn't have as much life experiences as I do now. I read Think and Grow Rich back in 2004. Now, 21 years later, I have more experience. We're going on to 22 years. It's almost 2026. Yet, every step along the way, every place that I was always standing, as I am right now, as you are right now, standing on your own acres of diamonds, as Russell Conwell put it in his wonderful book, Acres of Diamonds. And all I did was take my reference experience, whatever I had at that particular point. So as mentioned, I grew up and I would work in warehouses. Later on, when I connected dots looking backwards, I had a role later on in my IT career that combined my technology, my love for technology, and also my IT experience with warehouse management and understanding how warehouses work and logistics work. And that was what I did for the last few years before I tendered my resignation and started my IT business in 2009. So everything played a role. So at that time, I could have looked at it and said, oh, I'm just working at warehouses. What's the point of this? I'd rather be somewhere else. I always say, happiness is now. You are right now standing on your own acres of diamonds. Right now, you're standing on your own acres of diamonds. So you could take what you have right now, whatever it is, knowledge, wisdom, reference, experience, and make videos. We live in a wonderful time right now. You could do this. This is one of the ways you could do it, is you can make videos talking about your personal experience, and I'm going to even get into that in a moment. We're going to tie what I'm going to discuss with you today into this. You can share your knowledge, wisdom, reference experience, life experience. Doesn't matter what kind of life experience that you have. There are people out there that benefit greatly from the solutions that you have found for the problems, which are opportunities. They benefit greatly from the solutions that you have found, and they can buy your coaching, your consulting, your products, your services. You can create physical products, digital products. You can offer one-on-one coaching, in-person, online, and offline. You could do whatever you'd like to do. That's what I put in my book as well. And so acquiring your first client is a matter of putting out some videos. Just put out some videos talking about your life experiences. That's what I did actually with my other YouTube channel. My first video that I made on my other YouTube channel back in 2013 was my story of how I got rid of all my possessions except what I fit in one backpack, one little backpack. It wasn't even that big. And I bought a one-way ticket to Europe. See, people might have said, oh, wait, you build an IT business to success. What's the point of doing this minimalist kind of lifestyle? Because for me, it felt right. As I always say, listen to yourself and trust yourself. You know, Steve Jobs had also mentioned this. I used to listen to the Steve Jobs commencement speech over and over again back in 2009 and 10 and 11 and 12 when I was building my IT business. He said, don't let the noise of other people's opinions drown out your own inner voice. So I made a video talking about how I bought a one-way ticket to Austria. And this is the kind of stuff that I have in my backpack. And I'm going to be going into the next phase of whatever. I knew I was going to be involved with entrepreneurship and continue to be involved with entrepreneurship. And I also realized that I have a earnest desire to facilitate transformation in the areas of innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership for entrepreneurs, and then continue to build and grow. And I wanted to move into that, having built so much experience from building my IT business to success. A person might say, why don't you go out and buy the Lamborghini or the Ferrari? And I said, not for me. You know, in the earlier stages, that was my muse, but I didn't feel like doing it. So that's an interesting thing that can happen as well. But all I did was talk about my own reference experience. Now, a person might say, well, I didn't build an IT business a success. Consider this for a moment. The channel is not up, but back in 2008, I had another YouTube channel. 2007 and 8, I had another YouTube channel. And this was when I was working in corporate. And I would share my insights and perspectives of personal development information. And what I noticed is at a particular point, it had about 700 or 800 subscribers. I deleted that channel. It's a while back. And what I did get was business from that channel. People joined. At that time, I was offering network marketing. I was involved with network marketing. And there were people that would join my network marketing opportunity from my YouTube channel. Isn't that interesting? So all I did was talk about my experiences, and I still do till this day, of applying certain information in the books. And at that time, I did not have as much reference experience that I have now. And I didn't even have the ability to communicate like I do now, the public speaking skills back then. But still, people would sign up for my network marketing opportunities. So consider that. Next one is, you might have already done a video like this, but could you do a video targeted to someone who wants to be an entrepreneur but doesn't know what their business will be? How do you find your $1 million idea or industry? Well, you can, if you'd like, watch the broad array of videos that are available now on YouTube of various entrepreneurs that are building different kinds of businesses, that are involved with different kinds of business models. And you could choose whatever one that resonates with you to get the ball rolling and get started. You may or may not stay in that business. I've tested many different things. Back in the days, actually, 2005, I was actually doing a woodworking business. As mentioned, I worked at a number of woodworking factories, and I actually like woodworking. I'm a fan of woodworking. I had a little woodworking business back in 2005, and then I sold equipment because I didn't know what I'm going to talk about in this video, and also everything else that I talk about on this channel, which I learned along the way. But hey, if I genuinely desired to stick with it, for me, it was just something to try out, then I would have stuck with it and it would have been a successful business. But for me, I always say I follow my heart and intuition. My heart is in IT. Although I love woodworking as a hobby, I built this table here, which is very nice, and I put it together, and I don't have much equipment, but you can rent the equipment and do it for fun, etc. You can do these kinds of things. For me, it's more of a hobby. And so what I found is whatever is something that you're interested in, you can actually see the various business models and then test some of these businesses and then see if you like it or not. And if you don't, that's fine. The knowledge, wisdom, reference, experience, even if it's just a story, like for example, my story about doing a little woodworking business, the story is something that I can share on YouTube based on reference experience, which is valuable for people because they find that there's relatability there. There's relatability. So you can sit down and maybe do a little conversation with ChatGPT and explore what are your interests, what do you love to do, and explore a bunch of different videos out there. And you can find right out of the gate what it is that you love to do. As Steve Jobs had mentioned that as well. He said he found what he loved to do at an earlier stage, and that's fine. Some people find it maybe after a number of tests, they find a business idea that they stick with for the long term. Next question. When I work with my numbers, I no longer feel resistance. Congratulations. We have been discussing a lot on this channel and also my other channel on how to release identification to the conditioning which results in a fight, flight, freeze, fawn response in general, but in regards to money, a fight or flight response, as in people look at the numbers, whatever it may be in their business, in their KPIs, their spreadsheets or bank account, and they experience reactivity or a flight response. They don't want to look at them. But meanwhile, there's optimization data there. So congratulations. And the inspired actions I take flow naturally. Congratulations. In flow, like money, What you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say happens effortlessly. Like, for example, when I make these videos, I'm not thinking about what to say. I just naturally say it, yielding results that sustain me within my current life circumstances. Wonderful alignment in itself. Congratulations again to that. Yet the outcomes often feel far from my broader intentions. How would you relate to this dynamic and maintain steady progress while honoring your own rhythm without comparing to others' outcomes? Great question. I don't look around to compare myself with other entrepreneurs and what they have done and what they do, etc. I do what I love to do. And in the earlier stages, there was shiny object syndrome, fear of missing out, and these thoughts that would suggest I need to get involved with another business model. And for me, it wasn't the right thing to do. So now what I do is I watch, as I mentioned earlier, all these kinds of entrepreneurial videos. So I had recommended earlier to somebody, but I also do it myself. The TV behind me, in the evenings, I watch a lot of entrepreneurial videos on YouTube. They showcase their lifestyles, their business models, they share insights, perspectives, etc., based on experience. And not only do I find it very inspiring, I also find it to be very educational. And the way I relate to it is they're inspiring me to be more as I am, as I always say. And also, they're revealing different kinds of things like tactics, strategies, techniques in business, optimization, ways they have optimized the optimization data, as we mentioned, their business models, how they go about marketing, different kinds of marketing models and strategies, running ads, positioning, angles, ad creatives. The list goes on and on and on and on. It doesn't mean I have to do all these things. And even if they're pulling bigger numbers than me, that's completely fine. See, that's another thing. I don't relate inharmoniously with numbers. What I found along the way is the numbers compound, provided that you generate a lavish, steady, dependable income, which also compounds, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. And while I do that, I also like to enjoy a wonderful lifestyle, travel. I live in Blue Mountains, Ontario. I snowboarded earlier, and I go to Toronto on the weekends. I travel. I do a lot of things, fun. And number three, I have before and continue to do so in the earlier stages, invested and watched that money compound over the years. So when I look at another entrepreneur and they're doing whatever, or people doing whatever, I just say, if I want to do that, I can do that. If the desire is there, then let's go for it. That's how I got into this journey in the first place. I read books like The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss, and I said, well, it would be great to have my own business and have a 4-hour work week. And at a particular point, I had the 4-hour work week, but then I chose to not have the 4-hour work week because I do what I love to do. But for some, they like the 4-hour work week, which is perfectly fine. So you see, I'm not comparing myself to other people and their outcomes and their goals and their vision. I stay committed to mine, and that allows for steady progress in flow. I remain in flow and there's a steady progress. Like, for example, this new YouTube channel. I started this new YouTube channel, this one right here, in, was it February of 2000, this year essentially, 2025, February, something like that. And right now we have 3,600 subscribers, something like that. But when I started it, it was 0 subscribers. And then it was 1 subscriber and 2 subscriber, 3 subscriber. My other channel has over 400,000 subscribers. I had been making videos on that channel and still do so till this day since 2013. Would I consider another channel? Would I consider doing TikTok? Would I consider being more involved with Instagram? Maybe. The answer is depends. But what I found with all of these is I just show up fully committed and I invest. What do I invest? I invest my time, my energy, and resources to the current tasks, projects, initiatives, and what happens is it bears fruit. May not bear fruit right away, which is completely fine. May bear fruit at the end of the day, which is completely fine. May bear fruit in a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. Every single step I have taken has brought forth fruit or contributed to bringing forth fruit along the way. And as to relate back to what we started this conversation with, money flows effortlessly. Effortlessly it does. It flows to me and flows through me as well as I stop trying to control things. This is not hard work. So why I had mentioned earlier is it a half-truth. By that it is meant I put in the work. You can call it that. Like I'm making the videos right now. I'm sitting down here. I'm having this conversation with you. This is work, but it doesn't feel like work. I love having this conversation here. What else would I do? Well, I could go snowboarding, but that option is available after making this video. That option was available prior to making the video, and I actually like to go earlier where we got what is called fresh carpet, and there isn't too many people there. So I go when the slopes open, the lifts open. It's just a 3-minute drive. And that is the time for snowboarding. Right now, it's the time to make videos. As a matter of fact, let's say if I force myself to not make this video and sit on the couch, that wouldn't feel right to me. So I do what I love to do. Everything compounds, and I'm not trying to get more money. Money just happens to be the result of doing what I love to do. And then also, as Earl Nightingale had mentioned in The Stranger's Secret, producing products and services that are needed and useful that people benefit greatly from. He didn't say it that way. That's the way I like to say it. So I want to mention that what had emerged along the way while I was building my IT business, and even prior to that, were such wonderful books, such wonderful people that would share podcasts, what they were involved with in business and so forth. And one of the books that was brought to my awareness was a book called Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. It's a classic book. In this book, I learned something called the 5 stages of awareness. The 5 stages of awareness. Now, when I learned the 5 stages of awareness, what I have found as a result of applying the 5 stages of awareness is money began to flow even more effortless, because in the earlier stages, I was trying too hard. I was forcing, and I wasn't doing something that was flow-based because I was looking at it through a lens of inaccurate thinking. It is what Napoleon Hill called, what did he call it? Accurate thinking. This right here, what Eugene Schwartz is talking about in Breakthrough Advertising, is accurate thinking. Accurate thinking. So what do I mean by that? Well, consider this. You have products and services. You have a message, or you can share your message as mentioned earlier. You can start sharing your message, and or then you can create products or services. And why I say and or then is you can just share your message for fun. Now, interestingly, that's how a lot of online businesses start. For example, if you start sharing your messages for fun, and this is what happened to me in the earlier stages, what happens is views go up, and then I started making more videos. Views went up, and then YouTube accepted me into their partner program, and I started to get AdSense. I started to get AdSense from the videos. When the channel was growing, I was getting 6 figures a year just off AdSense, which is very interesting. So it wasn't something that I thought of in the earlier stages that it was going to turn into an additional revenue stream, but that's exactly what happened. So yeah, that can happen as well. You share what you love to share on whatever kind of topic, and then your business can be just based on ad revenue. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing a lot of AI channels, and they're not offering any products or services, but they're getting a lot of views. And I know some people who do things like faceless channels and create YouTube videos, which is essentially videos that people enjoy watching, and it's not even them on camera, and it's not even them speaking, yet they're making 6 figures a year and more. So what I'm getting at is if you put out a message, and now you can even put out a message, you don't even have to be the one who speaks the message. Now, I personally like to speak the message. I like to be on camera, but that's up to you. The options are available. And that can turn into a business. But assuming that you have a business that has products and services. And also, let's tie also in if you did not have products or services, but you just started creating content, and we'll use the example of creating content. Consider the 5 stages of awareness. So the people that you are speaking to fall somewhere within these categories, and there can be overlap as well. Unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. Okay, so unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. When I came across this back in the days, I applied it to my IT business. Then I applied it to my consulting business. And I also applied it to my YouTube channel, and I still apply it till this day. So the stress and frustration and the force of what content to create went away when I realized just how wise Eugene Schwartz was when he created this. And all we do, and I know many people who just apply this and they experience more money in their bank account. Simply put, as a result of applying this, money flows a lot effortlessly and even more easily to them as a result of applying it. And it is what Napoleon Hill would probably, I don't know if he knew about this or categorized it himself, but I feel like it's a fair assumption that he would call it accurate thinking. Accurate thinking. So, your viewers, your prospects can be in one of these categories. And as mentioned, there can be overlap. The 5 stages of awareness was introduced by Eugene Schwartz in his classic book, Breakthrough Advertising, and is a foundational text for copywriting and marketing. As mentioned, I'm a fan of, and we did a discussion on this recently, I'll link in the description to the video, of direct response marketing, copywriting, and consultative selling, which has generated me millions of dollars. So I'll say it again to be very clear. Direct response marketing, copywriting, and consultative selling. And these aren't things that you need to be perfect in. If you can get better and better and better, I trust you'll notice, as I have, and everyone that I've worked with, money starts to increase more so. 3 skills. That's it. Direct response marketing, copywriting, and consultative selling. So, a foundational text this is for copywriters and marketers that explains how clients and customers progress from not knowing, unknowingly, they have a problem like anxiety, for example, and they think that that's the normal way of living life. And as I have mentioned along the years, and I brought many people from anxiety into flow. Flow is the natural way of life. But there can be people that think that anxiety is a normal way of life. Just go through anxiety your whole life, as in live with anxiety. Live with anxiety your whole life like it was normal. Unknowingly, they're identified with particular conditions that is generating anxiety unknowingly. But now that they know, when they come across my information, they know. They say, okay, well, I have a choice now. I can go about things in a forced stress-based way. I can continue to live with this anxiety and build my business in an anxiety-driven way. Or I could do it in a flow-based way. I didn't know I had this choice. And Joseph says, no shame, no condemnation. I can choose now. So they tend to choose the flow-based way. And that's where I come in with my products and services for what I do now and bring them into flow. How so? Well, we got my school community. We got my book. We got my 5 programs on online training for entrepreneurs. There's entry-level coaching. There's high-level consulting. There's also flow-based prosperity. I've done some meetups and live events, all kinds of ways to facilitate flow. And I've been doing this since 2000 and, well, with the channel, interestingly. I started with my first program, I don't know what it was it 2015 or 16? Something like that, my mind mapping program. And then after that, I created my entrepreneur program. And then I created my subconscious mind program. And then I created my productivity and also my communication program. So step by step by step, I don't rush it. Everything from a state of flow. But this book right here gave me insights, refined my copywriting and marketing ability. So again, this book, specifically the 5 stages of awareness in the book, is designed to allow money to flow a lot more effortlessly to you. You don't have to do all these forced stress-based things, which is not based on accurate thinking. So no shame, no condemnation. Marketing can be more flow-based and effortless. And you see how effortless it is when we go through this. It's a foundational text for copywriting and marketing that explains how clients, customers progress from not knowing, unknowingly, not knowing that they have a problem. This is an interesting thing. It's not like we're creating a problem. I don't do that. I don't create a problem and then say, come up with some language to persuade them that they have a problem or convince them that they have a problem when they don't. They unknowingly identify with things they don't want to identify with. That's what it's meant. And then from there, what we're able to do is we're able to offer products, services, information, and videos to not only bring awareness to this condition that anxiety or stress or force or hard work is the way, as I mentioned earlier. When I read Think and Grow Rich, that's what Napoleon Hill did. But also how to release it, which is what he did. He delivered on those goods in the book Think and Grow Rich. So, unaware. Inwardly, they don't know that they have a problem. They think that forced stress base is the way. But I don't think a person is walking around. I mean, I know for sure. They're not walking around in this world here suggesting that they want to be stressed out and frustrated or be identified with anxiety all the time. So we create content or information to communicate to individuals that are in this stage here. So the prospect is not thinking about having a problem. They're not thinking about your solution or anything related necessarily. They are thinking that whatever is going through is normal. And then we mentioned it's not normal. It's not normal to be frustrated all the time and identified with anxiety or conditioning in mind that's generating anxiety. So what may not make sense to individuals like this is pitching solutions. They're like, what are you talking about? Explaining features of your products or services in your videos, teaching tactics, because they're like, why would I need to learn these tactics? Why would I need to know about these features? Why would I need to know about these solutions? These solutions, what do they have to do with me? So what works here is pattern interruption, which is generally what we do in the start of the videos, or if we're doing some ads, we can do it as well. We can get into nuances if you'd like. If you have any questions, you can leave one below. Big picture insights, identity level or worldview shifts. So this kind of content here, what I have found is a lot of my videos, and I was focusing more of this back in 2020, 21. That's when I'm getting 50,000, 100,000 views per video on my channel. It was essentially designed to bring awareness to what people did not know. They didn't know. They didn't know it. And then I put out videos like that. And then what happened also is a number of clients, a lot of people that I met actually took the information and their style. I hadn't come up with this information. I learned it from various sources, etc. And they also created channels and it began to spread, and it still does so more so every day. As a matter of fact, I meet more and more people that are referencing particular quotes in books out and about in Toronto, for example, out and about. They're referencing particular quotes in books and particular sayings that back in the days, there wasn't too many people saying it. And I know exactly where they got it from. And although they might not have got it from that book, they had got it from someone who had read that book or something like that. And so more people have become aware now, but there's still plenty of opportunity in this regard. So stories, our messaging style, what we put in our videos, what helps is stories. We go in with curiosity. Have you had an interesting experience like this before? That kind of conversation. Or, something that I've noticed. I don't know if you've noticed this, and I'll get into whatever kind of conversation. So an example would be anxiety isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's a signal that you're identifying with thoughts that don't represent you. That could spark curiosity. What is he talking about? So the goal here is awareness, and I'm not trying to sell here. And people wonder about that as well because they've asked me the question, how come your videos, they don't seem very salesy? Well, because if you're following within the scope of best practices of the 5 stages of awareness as articulated by Eugene Schwartz, there's no need to. This is a long-term strategy, we can call it that. This is a lifelong thing. You know how many people became private coaching clients and even the higher ticket coaching clients after 6 to 8 years of watching my videos? Now, a person may think, I don't want to wait 6 or 8 years to acquire clients. I don't. There are clients that become clients after watching a few of my videos or one video, and there are those that become clients after 5 or 6 years of watching my video. Either way is fine because the flow of clients is ideal. Next is problem aware. So these are individuals that know about this. They know about it, but they don't know what solves it. So the mental state may be pain, frustration, or dissatisfaction because they don't know what the solution is. So what doesn't make sense to problem-aware individuals that fall within this category is product pitches or overly technical explanations. I may or may not do that because, again, I speak to particular segments of the population in particular videos. As a matter of fact, there's a video on my primary channel. I call this primary channel. It is my other channel. This can eventually become the primary channel. But the other channel, I have a video on there on a finance spreadsheet, and it is the least popular video on my channel. It's the least popular video. My most popular video is Think and Grow Rich. So that one is geared more to the unaware, but the finance spreadsheet is actually to the most aware. And a number of individuals that have watched that video that I know that are millionaires are like, thank you, or became millionaires. At that time, they weren't millionaires. They became millionaires. They're like, the finance spreadsheet was so helpful, but it was one of the least popular videos. Someone would say, why would you make a video like that? Because that video was geared to a very specific audience that can see what I do and then put 2 and 2 together and say, let's bring him into our business. And then they usually become higher ticket coaching clients or something like that. Because they're at that stage where they or someone on their team can implement something like that. And not only implement it, they value something like that. As I always teach, it doesn't mean you have to do all these things, but I don't neglect these areas. So they're at a level of awareness where they don't neglect these areas and they value these areas. And also it happens to be less views because maybe people might look at that and say, what is all this technical jargon and spreadsheets Joseph is talking about, which is completely fine. And the other videos takes care of what they're looking for because maybe they're in the stage of unaware or problem aware, which is completely fine. So what works is clearly stating what the problem is, which is an opportunity. Sharing what the real cause is and exploring it. Lately, we've been making videos that was discussing the emotional cycle of change, Kelly and Connor's emotional cycle of change. If you haven't seen that, I'll link in the description to it. That was very helpful to many because they didn't know. They were thinking something like, okay, I already imagined myself being that which I desire to be. There's plenty of videos on the internet that are focused on that. And Joseph makes videos focused on that as well. Imagine yourself being that which you desire to be. Well, what do I do with all these emotions? I'm aware that I am already that which I desire to be, yet there's all these emotions that are arising, which I label as frustration, stress, etc. What do I do with this? And so what can I do as a person that has experience in this area is I can talk about my experiences and a model that was very helpful for me. And then they found that to be relatable and they sent me emails and that builds the relationship. Now they can take that, apply it and produce results and their business will grow. And then later on they can come back and then maybe become a client. But personally, if they become a client, great. If they don't become a client, great. Either way is fine with me because I do what I love to do. And also, I'm not dependent on them becoming a client. I have a whole bunch of business opportunities, investments, etc., which is why I see this as a long-term thing, because what we find is as the money increases, what happens is your knowledge, wisdom, reference experiences also increase, skills, your ability to communicate, articulate, etc., etc., etc. And that's valuable. And then ideally, you put money aside and you invest it, and that grows, compounds, and then you benefit from return on investment, increase of asset value, etc. So the message style, empathy, clarity. I like awareness without fear mongering. So I'm not like, if you don't do this, then you're going to be with anxiety for the rest of your life. Not my style of communicating. My style is bringing awareness. I found it to be really effective without the fear mongering. And that is effective. They become clients. That's how I like to do it. So an example, you're not stuck because you lack motivation. You're stuck, or you could say seemingly stuck, because your mind was unknowingly cultivated to chase outcomes rather than being in alignment or in flow, instead of being in alignment or in flow or something like that. See, when I write these kinds of things down as examples, I even find that as I communicated, I'll just naturally communicate it my style. And so how I communicate, the answer is depends what I would say. But this is a very rough example. And how do you get to that point? Essentially, I develop consultative selling skills. With consultative selling skills, you don't necessarily use scripts, although scripts can be helpful. I don't use scripts. You just communicate in a way that gets to the heart of it without triggering the conditions. My interest is not to trigger any conditions in mind unnecessarily that generate a fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, but rather speak to the heart. I aim for the heart. Because they already know the way. I'm not trying to convince them. If it's a match, great. If it's not a match, great, because I had mentioned this many times. If a prospect wasn't a match, they can refer business to me. They come back later on, or they buy additional products and services that I wasn't offering right now, that, let's say, later on, they realize that, hey, you know what, Joseph is really great to work with. I wasn't looking for that product or that solution because that wasn't what I was looking for when I had that conversation with them on the prospecting session on Zoom. But hey, now he's offering this other thing. I'd love to be a part of that because that's something I'm actually looking for. Flow-based. So your goal essentially is to position the problem, which is an opportunity, correctly. So low ticket offers is how I like to do this, and I like to do this diversified. So AdSense revenue with unaware is making up a large percentage for many people. And not necessarily that it has to be this way. I'm just being general here. And then low ticket offers, I find, and I diversified accordingly for those that are in problem aware. Why is that the case? Because they get a benefit from that. And then not only that, as they continue to grow, they also discover other ways that you have that you can offer to them, that they can work with you, which maybe in the earlier stages, they weren't a right match for that. But now that their business has grown, etc., they take you up for high-end consulting. One could say, Joseph, if you keep this going, maybe 5-10 years from now, you're going to be full of consulting opportunities. And hey, that could be the case. You know, I've met consultants over the years that have done what we're talking about, like this, what we're talking about here, and they've looked at this as long-term. And then later on in their career, they started getting some big consulting deals, like huge consulting deals, because what they have done is they have invested in their audiences, in their prospects, in those that consume their information. They have invested through books, through trainings, etc. And they have succeeded to such a high degree that later on, when there's this high-ticket offer put out by the consultant, or just to give back, they'll work with the consultant. And you know what? They'll happen to get multiples on those returns of investment of whatever they invest in that high-ticket coaching, because not only has that consultant grow, the individual has been applying the information and their business has grown. And based on the nuances on that framework, they're able to optimize accordingly. And it's a wonderful thing. So I've seen this happen a number of times. It's how you build a real business, not some tactical one just to get rich quick or something like that. That's not what we talk about on this channel. I choose to focus on long-term business. And also, you can generate a lavish, steady, dependable income along the way. It doesn't mean compounding and then, make a lot of money 15, 20 years from now. That's not what I'm talking about. I value two wonderful books which may not be discussed together, and we may explore discussing them both together. One is called The Millionaire Fast Lane, and the other one is called The Millionaire Next Door. They seem like two different books, yet I relate them harmoniously together. I actually apply both of them. So you can make money faster by building a business that's helpful for people, and also you can invest in the long term. And as a matter of fact, if you combine both, you'll have more to invest in your business because you have more capital, or not necessarily a business, whatever kind of investments that you choose to get into. And here's another cool thing about it is with the entrepreneurial skills and what you learn in business, you can start investing in businesses and optimize businesses, which is great. And, you can also invest in real estate, stocks, crypto, etc. So, problem aware. They're aware of having this problem, but rather than shaming and condemning them for having the problem, we offer solution. We have a conversation about that. And I found low ticket offers, although high-end coaching or one-on-one coaching is also helpful as well. As mentioned, when we share these things, it's not based on dogma. I've been a consultant now since 2013. And prior to that, I had an IT business. I was in corporate for 10 years. I've seen a lot of different business models and ways of marketing and sales. Just from the sheer volume of exposure, I've been doing entrepreneurship for 16 years. You see these things. So it's not this versus that. Your style is the best style. I always say this. Solution aware. So the individual may be thinking, the prospect, I know there's a type of solution. I don't know if it's yours. Fair enough. They're aware of various solutions that are there in the marketplace, but they don't know if your solution is the right match. So the mental state, they know what category of solution might help, but they haven't chosen one, or they are aware of various solutions, but they haven't chosen. So generic claims, and this works for everyone, or feature dumping, I find is not helpful in this area. They'll just tune out. What is actually helpful for those that are in this stage is explaining or sharing what other solutions are out there that don't work based on their current scenarios, etc. I'm not putting down the competitors. I have no interest in that. And I don't even see it as competition, actually. We had an interesting conversation about this in the school community. And I said, look, I learned this in my IT business. I had many clients that were in the stage of most aware, which we're going to talk about in a moment, that as a result of working with other tech providers or IT service providers and not getting the promises that these tech companies and these tech solution providers were promising delivered to them, they came to me afterwards. And they said, you know what, I want to work with you because we've seen what is out there and your solution is the best. So those businesses we find don't last, those so-called competitors. They're not really competition because, ideally, and that's why we put out content, ideally, those clients would have not gone down that road and experienced this unnecessary technology that was put in place, loss of money, expenses, etc., not getting the utilization that they were promised of the technology, or even needing all those features. Ideally, they would have not gone down that route. But hey, no shame, no condemnation. That happened. But now they come to you and they say, look, we'll talk about this in a moment. They're in the product aware, most aware stage, most aware, mostly. And they'll say, look, we just want to work with you because we know that, we've seen what's out there. You're the best solution. And you have a conversation with them and they know in that conversation that you know what you're talking about because you know what you're talking about. And what we find is that you usually pay a premium, which is interesting as well. So ideally, they would have not gone down that route and worked with you in the first place, but that's okay. Or those other businesses would have delivered on what they promised. And or if they did go down that route, then they become your clients as well. This is another reason why I say, very practically speaking, there's no such thing as competition. So They're aware and solution aware of the various different kinds of solutions that are available. What helps here is distinguishing. Here's what we offer. Here's what they offer. You can go with them if you would like, or you can go with us. Now, that takes a lot of confidence to say that. I actually say it. Some people are like, why would you say that? Because I know what is being offered, and I know what is being delivered, and I know how it's being delivered, and I can get into the nuances of how we do it, and I have put systems and whatever in place so that we could deliver easier, faster, more fun, more flow-based, etc. And without putting the competitors down, they work with me. So education, insight, driven authority. So here's an example. Most coaching focuses on fixing behavior. This works by dissolving the conditioning that manifests the behavior. So we get right to the heart of it. And we've been doing this for so many years with many clients. That's an example. Again, a rough example. Your goal in Solution Aware is to position the problem correctly. And again, problem is not to put the other person down. It's an opportunity. When I say problem, it's just opportunity. You can see clearly it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to provide your product or service to benefit them greatly. And they give you wonderful compensation. And for them, it's a way to get that solution that they were looking for. See how money can be effortless and fun and joyous and flow-based rather than force and stress-based, which is generated by concepts of marketing or concepts of money, which don't actually make any sense. And luckily for us, we could benefit greatly from Eugene Schwartz clearing it up in his wonderful book, Breakthrough Advertising, through a very simple lens to look through everything from, which results, I can honestly say, practically speaking, results in money flowing to you in a mutually beneficial way, as mentioned. So these kinds of individuals, and not always the case, I find that they pay quite well that are in this category because they know what solutions exist. They've been comparing options, and they're quite educated, actually. And they want the solution. And essentially what you can do here is just ensure that your offer crosses the T's and dots the I's. Crosses the T's and dots the I's for what they're looking for so you can move forward with that deal. If they get what they're looking for in whatever is being offered and they get the results, great. They succeed. Some of them you never hear from them again, but you know they've succeeded, they've benefited greatly, and that's fine. A portion of them come back and buy the higher ticket, and that's great. And if you know your numbers and you can bring in enough views and run ads, etc., then I don't force anyone to sign up for my coaching or consulting because I can just bring in more qualified leads. It's far more easier for me to bring in more qualified leads than it is to strong arm or force or convince someone to sign up. Because then, let's say that wasn't a match for them, then you may have to deal with refunds, buyer's remorse, all these kinds of things. Not my style. Product aware. So now they're aware of the products that you have. They know that your offer exists, but they might be weighing in, is this person trustworthy? I know what they have, but is the organization or the individual trustworthy? Is this a right fit? What about timing? And what about risk? They would like to reduce the risk. And also it is helpful to reduce the risk. We could talk about risk reversal if you'd like. We can get into nuances. Just leave a comment asking about that. We can explore in upcoming videos. And what doesn't make sense here is hyping, overpromising, vague transformation claims. What works is proof, specific outcomes, stories. During consultative sales, I will share case studies, testimonial, letters of recommendation, if applicable. I may even bring people in and have a conversation with them in relation to our experiences together. If we're hanging out because they were our client and they've succeeded, and they can ask my client. They can get into nuances with my clients. And although that might not be something we do formally in a one-on-one sales presentation, conversation, or Zoom session, exploratory conversation that we have with a prospect, it could end up being something that we do if we hang out, which I find I've closed many deals by hanging out as well, not necessarily formal Zoom sessions or sales presentations. Something to consider. So what works? Proof, specific outcome, social validation, clear positioning, who's this for, who's this not for. So messaging style, again, testimonials, case studies, objection handling, clear structure. An example, this is not for people looking for motivation. This is for people ready to stop identifying with limitation altogether. And it is solving it. It gets to the heart of it. It solves it. Do you have any questions, etc.? Something like that. Your goal, remove friction and uncertainty. Pays quite well, I found. They know you already. They built a relationship with you over the years, perhaps, so through your content or whatever ways they've gotten to know you. But there may still be some objections, which is completely fine. I'm not interested in tricking them or convincing them. Having a conversation to cross the T's and dot the I's. Perhaps it requires some proof, reassurance, clarity. Completely fine. I can offer that. Next is most aware. I want this. I want this. Give me the final push, or, inspire me just a little bit. The ideal place to be. They can go through stages like this, as I mentioned, unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and then most aware. Our goal is to bring them through the stages. Our goal is also to communicate to them based on where they are. And then also there are ways of serving them and still acquiring the client based on the stages that they are. So none of these limit you. Let's talk about most aware. The mental state is they're ready. They just perhaps need a reason now, a reason for this, a reason from you, whatever. Some, maybe just quick conversation. So I find what doesn't work here is persuasion, education, problem amplification, vision casting, storytelling, over-explaining, price justification. They're essentially ready to go. Like, this is it. You get what I'm saying? The scarcity tactics, none of that. Motivational language. It's just excessive. They're just ready to sign the deal. That's what it is. If you did your marketing really well and you've been making content really well, they're ready to go. Do you know how many people over the years are just ready to go? They'll just send an email saying, hey, I'm interested in consulting with you. I'll share with them my options. And they'll say, I'll choose option 3. That's it. Here's a Stripe link. Let's get started. That's it. No questions. They can ask questions if they would like, but I've seen that happen many times. What can be helpful are things like urgency, but I don't like to do this in a force-based way. Like, I'll give you an example. An example that's not force-based is, this intake is limited for 5 coaching clients. If this feels right, we can do this. So it's not really a force-based urgency, but essentially based on reality. You can only take on 5 coaching clients. I remember I sent an email a while back to my email list where I implemented this in 2019, and that's how I acquired my client Ed, who built his business to success. We created a testimonial video hanging out. We've been friends over the years. We still do coaching together. I'll link in the description to that video. You can check it out. So the messaging style is very direct, simple, decisive. Bonuses can be helpful because, they get more stuff, which is helpful for them, ideally related to whatever it is you're offering. Guarantees are helpful, clear next steps, but they're pretty much ready to go. So your goal here, it's not selling, it just sold itself. That's really good marketing. If you've done it all right, then it just sells itself. Facilitate the decision, not even to persuade. Nuance point. What I find as well is it can pay the most because they're ready to go. They know that you are what they're looking for. They're looking for you specifically. Specifically, they're looking for you. Specifically, they want to work with you and your organization. And they're looking for the solution delivered by you. Now, this doesn't mean I'm going to raise the price because I know that they are interested in me, and so I'm just going to try to get more money out of them. That's not how I think. The way I think is there are premium offers. I have, for example, a number of premium offers. If you're interested in my premium offers, you can, if you would like, send an email in my consulting form, which I'll link in the description. When they're ready to go, they'll take up one of these offers because they want the suite. They want the works. The desire is already there. The trust is present. No persuasion is needed. And they want to work with you. And there are a number of offers where we can work together in a phenomenally deep way, just wild, like just so deep we can work together, which warrants the price. So again, my personal nuance point is just because they want to work with me specifically, or my team specifically, or my organization specifically, doesn't mean that I'm going to charge them more for that reason. I like to do it this way. If they want to work with me specifically, if they want to work with my team specifically, if they want to work with me very, very, very nuanced, in a very, very nuanced way, I will make an offer that is so irresistible. It may be very premiumly priced, which is okay. And they will take me up on that because they want the works. They want the works, and that's that. So if you would like a copy of this mind map, I trust you found this video to be helpful. There's a link in the description. You can download a copy of this mind map. And if you have any questions about this, you could leave one below or a few below if you'd like, whatever you'd like. And we can explore in an upcoming video. Thank you very much for watching. We'll talk soon. Take care.